Hello, box breakers. Let's open this book to page 130. Fuck. So, you're a big fan of Nietzsche, huh? Well, me too, I guess. Pisses me off. He has pissed me off. The guy's telling me crazy stuff. But there's something really interesting about him that keeps me coming back. And maybe you have the same thing. Where he's just sort of that guy, you know? Now, before we get into this video, please subscribe and leave me a comment. So Nietzsche tricks you to be free. And how does he do that? With paradox. The man's going like, transvaluate all the values. And what the heck does that even mean? So you can sort of understand that he's not a big fan of values. But ironically, isn't the idea to transvaluate all values a form of paradoxical value? That he has some sort of value attached to that? And here's a man suffering from intense sickness, and he's telling us about life-affirming values or life-denying values, and it's a little personal. And he's telling us to have fun, yet he inspires a lot of bitterness as much as fun. I can remember when I first read Nietzsche that I would be pretty into it in a particularly serious way. And now here's this guy going like, maybe he wasn't actually doing that, but he sort of inspires that in a lot of people. The like this sort of like hard clenching. Well, he's telling you like in the gay science or the happy science, the joyous science, like to loosen up. He's like sort of serious. I mean, the guy is very serious. And he has a pretty grim sense of humor. He can be pretty mean. Like, Nietzsche's the kind of guy you either would love to hang around or he's just mean to you, probably. And he's paradoxical. And I think when people are reading philosophy or they get into Nietzsche, they're listening to Jordan Peterson or some other, like, maybe more a better scholar than Jordan Peterson, and they're like reading it very seriously. They're looking at each detail. They're grabbing this book and they're opening it to page 140, 137, going like, more and more it seems to me that the philosopher, being necessity of man of tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, has always found himself and had to find himself in contradiction to his today. His enemy was ever the ideal of today. So far, these extraordinary furtherers of man, whom one calls philosophers, though they themselves have really felt like friends of wisdom, but rather like disagreeable fools and dangerous question marks, have ever found their task, their hard, unwanted, inescapable task, but eventually also the greatest of their tasks, in being the bad conscience of their time. Alright, so forget about the words. That's like a tone. There's a style. His attitude. It's like a disdain, a disapproving father. So here's a man, like sort of critical, like a little bitter, like in telling us to have fun. And there's something funny about it. If you don't internalize that kind of attitude, like, here's a guy, like, definitely finds value in criticizing and in being very dramatic, which I like, because it's sort of funny. Like this guy, if you read that, you could read it like in Shakespeare. Put on a funny mustache, much funnier than mine, and start dancing around saying that real serious. Nietzsche's a real serious guy. And there's also the ironic myth of the guy breaking the myth. You know, here's like the Bible. Like, everyone takes it too seriously. This mythological language and like all these religions he's bashing a lot of the time. He gives credit with one hand and disapproval with the other. And it's like he's destroying these myths. He's like hitting a hammer, seeing if the idols are hollow. And like it's sort of serious. It's funny. Imagine a guy like using a tuning fork. Like, is this idol here? Is it hollow, hollow, hollow? Ironically, like running around. There's a myth of him, a misnomer of him breaking shit with the hammer, but really, there's a myth of the guy destroying myths. There's a myth. And he writes, "Thus spake Zarathustra," in the language of the scripture. And it's, I just can't read it or just look at it from the big picture without seeing it as a joke. Maybe one that he didn't understand at the time. Maybe he knew. Maybe because he, at heart, the man is a poet. The man's a poet. He's not a philosopher. He uses philosophy for poetry. And he writes great prose poetry, and we should appreciate that. I like him. And I think he's hilarious. And I do not take it seriously anymore. And I don't think he wanted people to take him seriously. Because here's a bunch of, like, existentialists that take themselves way too seriously. Like, valuing him, like, taking millions of notes on the guy. When you, sometimes you read for the mood. You listen for the like, the vibe of the room, rather than, like, the letter. And I think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. Ironically, the guy, he likes truth, he hates it. It's funny. It's sort of funny, and I'm done reading him, like, as if, like, I'm reading each letter for the meaning, when the guy's whole intention is to sort of, like, throw it off. Like, I was walking by a mine, and there's a lot of rocks thrown up, like, because mining, they make giant piles of rocks in the 19th century, 1800s, where they just left a bunch of giant piles of rocks in a lot of mining towns. And at the time, that would have been freaking pollution. If someone started digging up all the rocks to find gold or whatever, people would hate it. But now, because the rocks are really old, they're dug up crap left all over the place. These rocks, they're now, don't touch them. Don't touch them. Historical landmark. And I think you can look at Nietzsche with that kind of attitude. That here's this man sort of vandalizing the hillside as a joke to say, here, all this is natural. Look at this. It's there. Like, this is all true. It's not fake. Like, oh, here's like my views on religion. And at the time, it's sort of like scandalizing. And now people approach him with the same serious attitude that they would any historical figure that's famous. Like, they approach it with this sort of reverence and honor, and like, it's hard to laugh about. Like the mining on the hillside, like, people look at it and it's very important historical monument. Everything's left exactly as it was in the 1800s. Some house that was the ugliest one on the block, now historical landmark. So it's sort of funny, if that metaphor lands for you. So the will to truth. I want to talk a little bit about that before I end the video. The will to truth, in a way, is a paradox. And I don't want to approach this from a Nietzschean perspective. I just want to broaden it. It's a generally Nietzschean, like, theme, like attacking the will to truth. But I want to approach it, like, to a more modern application. the will to truth is shown in people who have God complexes. I mean, it's debatable whether Nietzsche might have. I'm not sure. I don't want to say yes or no. I've seen the idea passed around before. And the way he approaches it, maybe not. Another paradox. But the will to truth shows up in people. Like they're saying, oh, I'm the most enlightened being. You know, like I was watching a documentary on a YouTuber who ended up like starting in one niche and then he loses popularity a little. He starts going through a psychotic break because a lot of people on YouTube or on TikTok or on Twitter or whatever, they have some sort of narcissistic tendency and need for like recognition. And it, when people are like saying, I know everything, I know the truth, I'm like the enlightened one, I'm the, you know, like it's like people like go searching with the will to truth. They're like the will to truth or desire to know something. And they think that everyone else is going to have the answers. And then there's that guy who runs the cult or whatever who has the most untrue foundations to like what they're saying. So like their desire for the will to truth makes them unable to see that the biggest untruth they're living is that they are a god or that they know everything or that like they have something special like that's like makes them better than others when everyone's special. Everyone's special. Like you can either view the world as like no one's special, we're all just specks of dust, or you could think, oh, everyone's special in their own ways. Like everyone's like really cool, like and unique, and also there's similarities, and that's cool, and that's not like the worst thing in the world. But we're not. You can look at us as just a bunch of ants that can get squashed. And the will to truth, you know, can be paradoxical. And if you approach Nietzsche with too much of a will to truth, he's gonna trick you to think that he has an answer, and he's just gonna give you poetry and like turn it in against yourself, and you're gonna be confused and you're not gonna understand because it's about his style. It's about paradox. And if you don't understand paradox, you'll either go crazy taking Nietzsche seriously and trying to read every word and understand it and give him all the credit that's due, or you're gonna just like read a paragraph, read another, and you're gonna go like, this guy is dramatic as hell. He has some interesting stuff to say. He's a little bit mean, and he's funny in a way, and not in a way where I'm laughing at him. I just think in a cosmic sort of like universal sense, there's some ironic humor. I read it like a literary like book, not as necessarily as just pure philosophy. Anyways, that's my take on the Nietzschean paradigm. Please subscribe. Please, 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 please donate me some money if you're cool, because I'm broke. I'll put a link to all kinds of stuff. So, toodles and keep breaking boxes. All right.